Speaking of synchronicity, everything we've done today up to this point has led us to listen to the message from Edmond.
Yeah.
So yes, synchronicity. I like. So, the talk today is entitled "The Council of Nine Powers." The Council of Nine, the powers that you have as children of God. So, synchronicity is not something that happens occasionally. It's something that's constantly happening. Right? There is never a time that we're not in synchronicity. It's just that we don't always notice it. We're not always aware of it. Does that make sense?
Yes.
Right? The universe doesn't like work on some function some way and then change and function another way, right? It's consistent. That's why we can depend on things. That's why physics works and all these other things work. Is because there's a certain level of consistency. So that consistency we want to get in touch with. That synchronicity we want to get in touch with. If we have that awareness that synchronicity is always on, it's always happening, it's never not happening, then it's just a matter of us tuning in, right? When we're not experiencing synchronicity, something's wrong. Like the Course in Miracles says, right? When miracles are not occurring, something's wrong. Because that's the natural, right? That's the natural nature of things.
Miracles.
So first step is to kind of think of, okay, what is it that makes you special as a child of? First of all, are you a child of God? Does everyone believe that?
Yes.
Sure.
Everyone really?
A child of God.
Sure?
Or God.
Absolutely sure?
I want to.
Right.
I know I'm a child. Yes.
Yes. Okay. That's a start. But a child of God, right? What makes a child of God special?
We're all part of God.
We're connected.
Right. And
Connected.
yeah, but that's true for everything, right? And since God created everything, that's true for everything, right? What's special about a child of God?
We have the ability to co-create.
Say again?
We have the ability to
To
co-create.
co-create. Okay, so yeah, go ahead.
We're aware that we're a child of God.
Ah, that's the point, right? The awareness. So if you're aware that you're a child of God, there's a certain you could put these qualities into practice, into use, right? So what are the qualities? What are the special gifts that God gave to us?
To be happy.
Is right. Well, before you tell me, I'll tell you.
Oh.
So He gave us a mind, right? You always have this with you. So I was thinking about it in terms of the way a parent would prepare a kid to go to school, for instance, or for anything, right? If your kid is going to school, you make sure he has all the clothes that he needs, he has all the books and all the pencils and all the things he needs, his lunch, right? Lunch money or whatever. You make sure he gets on the bus, right? You make sure everything he's able to use in order to have a good experience, right? You wouldn't leave anything that you know that he needs out, right? As a parent, that's what parents do. We figure out what the thing is, right? So, as children of God, would God send us into the world with anything that lacking anything?
No.
That's kind of obvious, right? So when we feel lack, what is it that's missing? What's the thing that's missing?
Believe.
Your heart sometimes. You just have to breathe into your heart too. It's not just your mind.
Well, yeah, but we'll get to that in a second.
Your awareness is missing.
The awareness is the thing that's missing, right?
The knowing.
Yeah.
The knowing, yeah.
If you forget, then it's like you don't, right? You can't make use of the things that you have. Your mom might have packed a nice lunch, but if you forget, then you can't eat, right? So the awareness is really important, right? If we ever forget, then it's like we don't have what we were given. Does that make sense? That seems like pretty simple, right?
That's the reason for contemplative prayer.
Okay. I'm not sure what that means. What does that mean?
Contemplative prayer is like a meditation
Right.
Okay, all right.
with God.
Yeah. And this is the other thing too, right? We have to understand what it means to be a child of God more clearly. And we all have a sense of it, right? What that means. But if I say I'm the son of a king, right? And let's say there's a king. What does that give me?
All kinds of privileges.
Yeah. Somehow it raises your access that you have to things, right? Huh?
People have expectations of who
Yeah, all that comes to with it, right? But there's a certain increased sense of self, if you will, right? If you're the king.
Mm.
If you're king, if you're the son of a peasant, then yeah, maybe less. Right?
Monarchy could also gives you a sense of destiny too.
Yeah, all of that included, right?
And safety.
Safety,
Sometimes
yes, good point, right?
Gives
And
you
now,
the
So-
humility to know that you're really controlled by the queen.
Really controlled by the.
Good
Queen.
point.
Right. So so if we extrapolate that to being children of God, what would that mean for us? I mean, if we put it into really practical kinds of terms.
Privileged. We're very
What's the
privileged.
privilege? Yeah.
uniqueness. We're all unique.
All unique. Yeah, that's true.
Have lots of power.
Lots of power. Yes.
Responsibility.
You mentioned it earlier about safety.
Yeah.
Right. If God is God is our Father,
Mm.
what have we to fear?
Yeah.
Right? Is there anything that God could not take care of? Because if that's true, as children of God, we should have no fear about anything, yes?
Even the hard lessons.
Everything. It doesn't matter what it is, right? Whether it's hard or easy, or we like it or don't like it, right?
Mm.
How do you think we can like feel into that more?
Good, that's a good question.
Like if you're somebody that you feel like you've tried to overcome certain obstacles so many times and you fail.
Yeah.
Or you feel as though you failed.
Yeah,
You know?
so that's a good question. And
Mm.
again, synchronicity, that's exactly where I was going with this. Right? So it leads you to kind of question, well, what is it that allows me to not be aware of that power that I have as a child of God? It's something that's given me, and it's not something that I could lose, right? God doesn't give you stuff that you could lose.
Mm.
So if you have it, you have it, right? Whether you're aware of it or not, that's the question.
Hmm.
So we have to, ask the question, well, what is it that makes me not aware of it, right? And what would that be?
Blocking.
Fear.
Ego.
Well, fear,
Fear blocks
Other
it.
people telling you
other people, right? Traditions, right? Teachers, right?
It's like a real
Ego.
sense of self, ego.
Right? Sense of self that you have, right? Because now we've taken on this persona of being, oh, I am just a human being.
Mm.
Well, if you're just a human being, yeah, well, you're limited, right? If you're a child of God, no limitations, right?
So do you feel you're unlimited if you're a child of God?
Well, what do you think?
Well, yeah.
Yeah, right? There shouldn't be any. Now, I mean, this is not to say that you walk around strutting and you know, but but it's a knowingness, right? It's an inner knowingness that whatever situation you find yourself in, like synchronicity
Mm.
tells you, right? It's not an accident. There's nothing there that's not purposely designed to bring you something more, right? In awareness of who you truly are. Does this make sense?
Mm.
So this is the value of knowing that you're a child of God. Okay, let's go a little bit more detail into the powers now. So God gave us, and there's much more than 9, but 9 is like a good number to start with. Right? The first power that He gave us is the power of perception. Right? You are able to perceive. You cannot be existing and not perceive. And by perceive, I don't mean just see. I mean hear, touch, feel, taste, smell, have insights, intuition, memory. All of these things are involved. Right? Perception. Whatever happens, whatever situation we find ourselves in, we could look at it. Right? And again, not by just seeing, but right, feel through all of your senses. And so that's the idea of perception. The better you are at perceiving, the better you are at the next power, which is choice. Right? Given that I see, it gives me the ability to choose. Right? If I'm walking down the street and I see cars coming, I know, oh, I should choose not to go in the road at this time. Right? Or if I'm walking down the street and I see a hole in the road, I know I get to choose whether or not I go straight or go around it or something else. Right? Without perception, I can't make good choices. Does this make sense? So that's clear. I just found a hole in my sweater, and it's like bugging me because I see it in the corner of my eye.
Very perceptive.
Perception, yeah.
But you have a choice.
Yeah, I have a choice. I turned it around. So, so perception is the first power, right? And everybody has it, right? Not everybody has it in the same amount, but what can you do to refine that power, to increase it in your daily awareness, right? Meditation, yeah, is one of, but simple things like what would you do? What would increase the power of perception for you? Just in general, not in.
Remember to breathe.
Yeah, to be relaxed is one thing, right?
Maybe
Because if you're
to
tense,
Like to slow down and not be so
Correct.
busy.
Yeah.
To let go of some. Like people tend to overbook themselves.
Yes.
So to just cross some things off your calendar and
Yeah.
make it more simple.
yeah, go through life with a certain level of relaxation, right? Yeah.
Go to an Edmond yoga class.
Go- Absolutely. Make sure that you do that.
What did you say?
Go to an Edmond yoga class.
Watch your thoughts.
Be mindful of what you what
Be
thoughts are.
mindful.
Remember, you don't have control over your thoughts, though, right? But to be mindful of them is to make sure that they don't come out through your mouth without some kind of filter, right? Because sometimes it's not.
Don't have power of your thoughts, but that's where the power of choice comes in.
Yeah, there you go. You can choose what you want to say, right? The thoughts you don't have control over, but
You could choose
which one you want to let out your mouth, that's okay.
I have a friend who says cancel clear. And sometimes I think that when I'm thinking
Okay,
something negative, and I think cancel clear.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Mm.
yeah.
And what else? What else can we do to increase perception?
Go to therapy.
Well, yeah, if you need it.
Sometimes.
But simple ones like getting enough sleep, right? Making sure that we hydrated,
Eat good food.
right? We eat good food, right? Things like that. It's like this is not like rocket science. It's really simple stuff, right? That you could do. Because if you're sleepy, then you can't perceive as well, right? You can't perceive as well. You're not going to make good choices, right? So increasing your perception is kind of like a fundamental thing that you want to be aware of, right? And if you're not in the right mood for some particular experience, it's gonna distort your perception, right? If you're angry, if you're depressed, right, all of these things will distort your perception. Does that make sense? Is that clear? Okay. So having perceived correctly as best we can, what's the next thing is that we are able to make good choices, right? Now, when we choose, having made a choice, we can act, right? Do I want to eat this food as opposed to that food, right? Do I want to hang out with this friend as opposed to that friend? Do I want to do this action or that action, right? We get to choose. Once we choose, immediately we have an experience. So this is the next power, right? So keep them in mind. Perception leads to choice. Choice leads to action. Action leads to experience, right? Every action produces an experience. Yes?
And an equal or opposite reaction.
Well, yeah, it produces some experience. That's the
Okay.
experience, right?
Right.
Whatever reaction that you get is the experience. Does that make sense? So, now, experience, again, it's something that it's kind of variable in the sense of the state of mind that you're in, right? If you're ready for a particular experience, you could really enjoy it, right? Like, for instance, if you choose to go on a roller coaster, right? you have to be ready for the experience, right? Even though it's a little bit of surprise and stuff every now and then. But if you're not in the right state, right, you might have a not so enjoyable experience. Does that make sense? So, so having the experience now, we could say, after we get off the roller coaster, we could say, should I go back on there, right? This is called reflection. So having had the experience, you could reflect on it, right? And from reflection, what would you guess could come from that?
I'll never do it again.
I will do it again.
Oh, you will do it again, right? So you learn something, right? So learning is the natural outcome of an experience, right? From reflecting on experience, because you could have the experience and not reflect on it, and you probably won't learn anything. Does that make sense? Okay.
Yeah.
So, but if you do reflect on it, then the lesson could be learned, and not just learned, intellectually, but really learned, right? So having learned something, what does that lead to? Naturally,
Wisdom.
growth.
Wisdom, yeah,
Who
growth.
said growth?
Yeah.
Yeah. All right. Immediately you grow because now you know something that you didn't know before, based on the experience that you had. So now you're a little bit wiser. That's it, right? You've grown, and that's the next power, right?
So the next power is what? Growth?
Growth. So you see how they kind of flow one from the other, right? And this is the way. Well, synchronicity is all throughout the whole thing, right? Remember, synchronicity never stops. It's constantly there. It's just are we aware of it, right? And if you just in the time that we were here and focused on synchronicity, the number of synchronicities that I picked up was quite a lot, right?
You did?
Yeah. In the song that Rose sang, right?
Yeah, I didn't know he was going to talk about synchronicity,
Yeah,
but
totally.
my song was also about that. Yeah, I was thinking that too.
Yeah.
That works out, yeah, that's great.
And in the back of the song sheet that Rose sang, it has a thing from Marianne Williamson.
Oh,
Our
there is?
deepest fear is not that we are inadequate. Our deepest fear is that we are powerful beyond measure. This is exactly what it means to be a child of God, to be powerful beyond measure. And the thing that we're afraid of, and the thing that keeps us from that awareness is fear, right? Fear because we're thinking that we're less than that. Does that make sense? You see, again, synchronicity all through everything, right? No mistakes. Nothing happens by accident. Everything is purposeful. And we live in a world that's that way. If we kind of let ourselves kind of like sink into that awareness, right? How much planning would we need to do?
Yeah, none.
Does that make sense? Because synchronicity is happening all the time. You will be at the right place at the right time for the right next experience that you need to have, right? But we usually don't trust that, right?
We intuitively know how to handle situations.
We'll
just about
intuitively
us.
know, exactly, yeah. Right? Without much manipulation, without negotiating too much, right? And just falling into this natural flow of things, right? Which reminds me of the song, row, row, row your boat gently down the stream, right? Merrily, 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 life is but a dream, right? If you think of that, that is such a rich little poem.
It is, yeah.
Because it's based on this understanding that things are already kind of set up and structured for us to just come along and have the experience, right? All we have to do is just to be happy along the way, happily, 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 merrily, 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 right? Does that make sense? Does that feel like useful for you guys to be aware of? Yeah?
Looks like we were taught it since childhood.
Yeah, well, this
Row,
is all
row,
stuff.
row your boat.
Yeah, from small we
Go
learned
with
it.
the flow.
Go with the flow, right?
But
Don't resist,
yeah,
right?
but
Because-
nobody explained it or expounded on it. We
Yeah.
just sang it.
And you didn't get that message from everyone.
Well, yeah, but
Yeah.
but you know, this thing is that once we get it, we could see
Yeah.
it, we could apply it across the board, right? We could see,
Absolutely.
oh, here it is again, here it is again, here it is again, right? That's again synchronicity, right?
It reminds me when I was in therapy and I was being instructed about how to learn how to go with the flow. That if you get caught in a whirlpool, if you try to fight it, it will take you down to the bottom. If you release and let it go with the flow, it will bring you right back to the top.
Ah,
Really?
see that?
Wow.
Didn't know that.
No.
Not that that's something that's
Now
probably.
you sit down trying to fight a whirlpool.
Well,
Flow
and that's
go.
the same analogy that Brooke and I, we were caught going around a circle, going down a hill, but it's circular around, and it was on the south side. And there was a tractor and trailer behind me, and I realized I lost control of the car going around the curve. And so I just let it spin itself out and took my hands off the wheel and the whole gas. And it was the most pleasant thing I've ever done. It was the most fun going around. And thank God the tractor and trailer saw it and, you know, slowed down completely and stopped. But we spinned it right out. We were fine. It got back on the road, and we were just, and I said, wow, that was something. But if I had tried to control that, I think the outcome would have been
Would
different.
have been different, yeah.
Yeah.
Right? So that gives us, again, another insight, right? It's this idea of how much do we need to actually manipulate life, right? Yeah, it's very little, very little. Absolutely nothing is the ideal, but very little, right? I mean, you still have to, you know, okay, if you have to get on a plane or something, you gotta negotiate a little timing, you know, logistically to get there, right? But again, not because you're trying to force the action, right? It's just what's natural. Does this make sense? Am I saying it in a useful way? Okay. So perception, right? Perception leads to choice. Choice leads to action. Action leads to experience. Experience leads to growth. A reflection, right? Experience allows you to reflect. Having reflected, we learn. Having learned, we grow. So what's the next one? This is not an obvious one, but it's
Share. Maybe
yeah,
share
the
with
sharing. That's normal, right? We can help. That's another point. That, glad you bring that up. Sharing is something that you can't help doing, right? Does that seem like an obvious question? An obvious statement?
You can repress it though.
You
No,
can
you
repre-
can't.
You
Really?
can.
Because then you'll be sharing repression,
Mm.
right?
Because
You
you're
get
sharing
me straight
something.
where you're
about-
You can right? It's
Unless
like
you're invisible,
yeah.
right?
You
Right. Forward.
You always have. You cannot help but share because that's natural.
Trump is sharing.
Exactly. Everyone is, right? No one is exempt from this. So the only question is, what am I sharing, right? Or how am I sharing it? That becomes a little bit more, right? But you can't help but share. And it's also true for teaching, right? Your very presence is teaching something. You can't help that, right? You put on a loud shirt, you're teaching something, right? Right? Your presence, right? Does that make sense? Okay. So what's the thing that comes out of growth? What will you guess? Take a guess at it. It's not obvious.
Godliness.
You already have that.
New experiences.
New experiences, but that comes naturally, right? Having grown, what?
Expansion?
Expansion is growth, right? That's
Yeah,
the same thing.
thing.
But think of yourself as a little plant growing in a pot, and you grow and you grow and you grow. What happens?
You need a bigger pot.
You need a bigger pot, right? So how do you get to a bigger pot? You have to transcend the pot that you're in. You have to transcend the
Like a
limitations,
butterfly.
right?
Butterfly?
You move. Yeah, butterfly is transcending the limitation, right? That's a really good example, right? Because couldn't fly before, but right? What's the process of transcending? How do you transcend? This is a good one. I didn't even think about it.
You have to change.
Something has to change, yes, right?
A new birth.
Well, a reawakening. You could think of it as birth.
You blossom, you move on.
Something different has to change, right? In other words,
Change.
you transcend the limitation or the world, if you will, that you were in before and limited to, right?
Mm. You become
Into
unlimited.
something
Change your mind,
now
change
much
your
more, right?
Change your mind, change your life.
Yeah, you change your life, right? You literally change who you are, right? Because you cannot function in that limited space anymore, right? So you have to transcend. You see how it follows? It flows.
Mm.
Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm.
Isn't that cool? And now, having transcended, what does that allow us to do? Continue growth, of course, but then we back into the cycle, right? After having transcended, we've now, this is kind of like a moment to reflect differently. So having the moth becomes a butterfly, right? The butterfly has an opportunity to look back at himself, at the process that he went through as a moth, right?
Okay.
And right, but now that is past, right? You can't go back to that state. Does that make sense?
Mm.
Once you transcend something, you can't, right? It's right. You can't go back to being 5 years old. That's it. Put it that way, right? You've transcended that.
Yep.
So now you have a chance. It's basically, it's kind of embedded in the process, but you can now learn to forget, right? The next power is the power to forget, because that experience that you had is of no longer any use to you. Does that make sense?
Mm.
A butterfly is never going to say, "Oh, let me try and be a moth," right? Right? Now so having transcended, now you can forget that past experience. Now you're free to grow again, right? It's like a new slate, a new sheet, right? A new moment in your life, right? You get to decide now again, right?
Mm.
And forgive.
Yeah, you get to start the process over. You could say you could perceive now the forgiven isn't even really necessary because you've forgotten it. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
When you forget something, you really let go of it. Does that make sense? Is that clear? Right? You're no longer attached to it in the same way that you were before.
So you're saying the lesson dies?
Well, the lesson has served its purpose. If I'm trying to catch a bus and I get on the bus, I forget everything that right? Everything that I did before that is
Irrelevant.
It's past.
So I guess you're saying that the growth stays.
yeah.
Sometimes I go backwards.
Not really. You go differently, right? Or we experience the same thing from a different perspective. But you cannot go back into the same, like they say, right? You can't step in the same river twice,
Mm.
right?
Because you have changed and the
You've
water
changed.
is changed.
Yeah. Right? So now the past. So forgetting, the power of forgetting allows you to let go of the past. So now you can give your full attention to the future, right? Or to the present, actually, the new present. Right? Does that make sense? So those are your 9 powers, right? And the value of knowing that these are powerful things consciously allows you to use them more deliberately, right? Using them more deliberately keeps you in awareness of who you really are, which is a child of God, which is where we started. Does this make sense?
Mm-hmm.
It will remind you that I'm not just, even in my forgetting, I'm not just like, some trivial thing. No, this is a power that I'm putting into practice. I'm using it in a deliberate way, right? In order that I have a better present moment experience, right? I'm not tied to the past. You see the value of forgetting?
Mm.
Is everyone?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, anyway, welcome.
Can you enumerate all the 9 in a row?
Let's do it together.
Together?
Yeah.
Just remember the first one, and you could derive the rest of them just by thinking about it a little bit, right?
So,
First one is perception or observation, right? You can use different words, right? Just the idea.
mm-hmm.
So from perception comes choice.
Choice.
Right? Gives you the ability to choose. Having chosen, now you can act. From action comes experience. Right? Having experienced, you can reflect on the experience. You can look back on it. You can examine it. Right? From reflection, you learn. Having learned, you grow. As you grow, the increase, I want to expand. As you expand, right? You get to the limit, and the limit in order to keep growing, you have to transcend. Right?
Mm-hmm.
Transcending gives you the experience of a new vista now in front of you. And from that, you could forget the past, because now you have a new page. It's kind of like, you could think of it as dying, right? When you die, you go to heaven, and then that's a whole new experience for you, right? You don't remember this. Maybe that's too morbid, sorry. Could think of it like waking up from a dream, right? So you had a dream, and you were doing da-da-da-da, and you woke up, and you go, oh, how long does it take for you? How long do you remember what you had, the experience you had in your dream? How long does that stay with you? Not much, right?
No.
If that's the idea of forgetting. Does that make more sense? So those are your 9 powers. So now we could think of ways that we could use these powers more deliberately. Like I said, using them deliberately, remembering them, using them. And again, this is not something that's mystical or anything like that. These are normal things that you're using all the time anyway, right? You just want to now do it in a very deliberate way, a conscious way, so that you're reinforcing the truth about who you are, right? And causing yourself to remember that more, which is Brooks' question, how do I remember? How do I remember that I'm a child of God? And this is how you do it. Does it make sense?
Okay.
Sounds good?
Yeah.
Useful? A little bit? Okay. Any questions?
So then we can become all powerful.
No, you're already all powerful.
So now we are aware that we are all powerful.
Right? The awareness makes a big difference, right?
Mm-hmm.
Because if you're not aware,
Things just go passing right by.
yeah, you might even go looking for the thing that you are, right? That you have, because you're not aware, right? I have a diamond in my pocket and I'm walking around like a poor person because I forgot, right?
Or you choose to be a
Awareness is-
pauper for the experience.
You can choose to that, yeah, but that's a whole different experience too, right? Is it good?
Good.
Thank you.
Time for the love offering. The paddle?
On the back of your paper, it's My Religion is Kindness by Karen Jucker.
Oh, yeah, religion is kindness.
My religion is kindness, my church is nature, my God's a feeling, I live deep inside, my job is to be conscious, my path is forgiveness, my religion is kindness, and I practice it every day. Everyone has a story, everyone has pain, when we strip away our masks we find we're really all the same. It's those little things we say and do that can mean so much. It's a smile, a connection, a simple love and touch. My religion is kindness, my church is nature, my God is a feeling, live deep inside. My job is to be conscious, my path is forgiveness, my religion is kindness, and I practice it every day. Every day. Today I'm gonna ask myself, what more can I do? Be a radiant child of God, let my love shine through. I'm gonna let my heart be my guide to give the best of me. I'm gonna share my joy, share my
Yeah.
Good choice.
Very upbeat.
Good choice. Time for announcements. Although I'd like to move that to later because I don't have all the lineup of schedules of speakers.
I don't
Does
have,
anybody
I
know
don't
offhand?
have it either.
No.
I don't have the speakers
Okay, I
either.
do know that the transformational workshop that
It's
Pamela,
coming.
Dr. Pamela Moss had offered for this Saturday had been changed to this Thursday, the 24th.
Right,
Same place,
same place.
7:30 again? I don't read the whole thing.
No, 7 o'clock.
7
Is it
o'clock?
7:30?
7 o'clock.
Oh, 7
Okay.
o'clock.
7 to 8:30 p.m. Thursday, October 24th, at the Sanctuary in Vestal. Yeah, this is on the.
Right, at Carol Anton's,
Our flyer's back there.
yeah, flyers back there,
Yeah.
at Carol Anton's place.
Other announcements is Hal Fishbeck had just brought in a new box of books that we will
Any
go
place,
through and add to the library. So if you want to look through the book after the service and see if you find anything interesting, any of the books are out. Our
Where's his
men's
box?
library,
Oh, where's his box?
the box right in front there.
This
No, at your feet there, Vera.
Oh, and you have to open the top, okay,
Yeah.
full of books. That's good.
That's pretty obvious.
Wow.
What kind
One
of
you almost
books?
tripped over.
Thank you.
Good one.
Yeah, it's from Hal Fishbeck. Wow.
Also, Hal mentioned that for 40 years or plus 40 years, he's been doing a dial of thought or a prayer, and he's resigning from that service.
Wow.
So that's on the website, I believe.
Yeah, so I can
If you
take
remember to take it off.
Hal
Right.
Fishbeck?
And he says it's a wonderful that after 40 years, he's just not able to keep up with it anymore.
Ah,
But how richly he was blessed through the 40 years, if somebody would like to take up that service. We could get in touch with him, we could tell him how to go about getting it all set up and everything else, but. So that's what I got from Hal. Next week's speaker, if this week is Edmond, I guess next week is Rick?
oh yeah, Rick Gridley.
No.
No?
Yeah.
Yes, what happened, he said
Well,
no?
he just emailed me yesterday and said he's canceling.
Oh, okay.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right, so we'll have to
So-
have Jerry doing part number 3.
Well, we'll see what Leon has.
Just sit anywhere, I put papers here.
Maybe
I'll sit with my
It's time now to welcome our members too. We open our hearts and doors to new individuals and families, and we know that the right and perfect people are joining us at the right and perfect time, as evidenced by the Gilligans walking in. So it's time to greet your neighbor.
Okay.
Yay.
Any moment, if there's anything that took place this week or something that you became aware of, something where it brought a closer consciousness to the presence of God or connectedness of everything in the universe. It's what we call a unity moment. Anybody have a unity moment they'd like to share this week?
I do. I'm working with an autistic boy, and apparently he wasn't doing so well before I came on the scene. And it was really tough because he's 15 and he doesn't speak much. And so if you were doing English and they asked for a plot or a character, he says none. Because it's hard for him to articulate feelings, but he's very bright. So he's doing Regents, everything, and even some college things that I'm going through with him in 8th grade. And he's is brilliant, but just getting him to, speak out or anything. Well, now he's so comfortable with me, and he went from almost a 0 to like 89 average in 2 weeks with me. So I'm really thrilled. And, I got him, I think it was just a few days ago, he started speaking a full sentence to me, and I was like, oh, yes, that's exciting. So it's wonderful to see, the growth in a person, and I hope to just get him to be a happy human being. That's really important, to be happy with himself.
And often they're very smart.
Oh,
Depends
yeah.
if they're high functioning.
Very smart.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Well,
he is.
he's not happy? Is he
Oh.
unhappy now?
I just think that he doesn't show emotions, but he started showing emotions. He made some funny faces because he knows I like humor now. So he's making some funny faces.
That's great.
And every once in a while a smile, but not a lot, but when he does, I know that, he's doing really well. And he liked a girl and he moved her chair, and the science teacher wasn't too thrilled with that, and then he was throwing gummy bears at her. But but I said to the science teacher, I said, he's happy. It's
fun.
But it's just cute, it's just cute.
Yeah.
I still have small conviction that autistic scale people
Mhm.
are going to be looked at the missing link between
Uh-huh.
our present consciousness and the next
Mm.
variation.
Yeah,
Amazing.
yeah.
I honestly believe that.
I read somewhere where Bill Gates has that tendency, or
Yeah,
someone who's real.
It was on the scale.
Yeah,
And the scale is so
Yeah.
varied. You
It
can't-
is, yeah.
yeah.
I know the scale might fit about 98% of the population. It's so broad.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, well, I was
all
grateful
the same.
because my daughter's one's in New Hampshire and one's in New England, has tons of things to do, and one of her kids is high functioning autism and all sorts of things. But it was like the New Hampshire daughter who doesn't have time to do anything with her kids and her 2 jobs and different things. She came last weekend
Oh,
just for like Friday night to Sunday afternoon, whatever. And she said it was like staying in a hotel somewhere, like she could sleep. She never slept so well, but because of not having all the interruptions and everything. And we were sad that the other daughter, you know, had all these things and everything. Well, we went a couple of places and the other daughter was running an errand, and we all connected, and it was like the planets aligned. And I was able to take them for lunch, and we had, and anyway, there was, I had money left on a
It's all about
coupon, and I
timing,
could
yeah.
help the older daughter, and it just, I was so grateful, you know? Yeah, so anyway,
Yeah, synchronicity
Yeah.
definitely.
Yes, and it's so beautiful because it really does happen often enough. It's just that people don't even realize that it's such a subtle, like so many things that are good in life, it's subtle. But when you recognize it, it's huge.
Yes, and they flow together, and it's just, I just remember to be grateful that I don't live in a beautiful mansion that burned down in Northern California, or Syria, or whatever. So gratitude is,
I remember one time years ago, I wrote an article for Sober Times, it's a publication for a 12-step community. Title of it was "Don't Let God Keep You from Finding Spirituality," and synchronicity was a big part of it. You know,
Oh, yeah.
because 12-step is a spiritual program, but many people are afraid that we're talking God, not spirituality. So I wrote that article, but synchronicity was a huge part of looking for.
That timing is,
is
and you know, I think in Abraham and Hicks, I love when she says her husband died, and she said, you know, she learned a big lesson. She felt him around her and all of that, but she said, and she's channels material, but she said, what was interesting is one day she said out loud, she says, you know, I miss you so much. And he said, why are you separating us? You know, to her, in her mind, why are you separating us? I'm right here for you. I'm right here. And so he made sure that she knew. And it was the timing and that synchronicity that when she stopped at this one place, it says, I love you so very much. There was all these cups that said that. And so just that, and having her drive to, I think it was a what is it called? Chick-fil-A? Oh, yeah, Chick-fil-A. And she never, ever, she says, I never wanted to go there ever. And she goes, I was so hungry for it. She says, I've never, and then she saw the cups. And she said, oh my gosh, isn't that odd? And then when she went home, she had something that a friend had ordered from her months ago, and it was just delivered. And they were cups that said, I love you.
Oh my goodness.
That she was going to hand out. So she said, she got the message loud and clear. And he said, it's all about the timing. He goes, there they are, I'm showing you. Yeah.
Good story.
Any other moments?
I just wanted to say, next week, if you speak, it would be good to speak on synchronicity and timing.
Well, we'll see. I'm not even sure if I'm speaking, or anybody speaking next week, so.
That may cause a lot of things to happen during the week, or for us to pay attention.
Right, pay
And live
attention.
in the moment.
Everyone pay attention this week. And then this week, too, I had so many synchronicities, more than ever. So I don't know what's going on, but
If you're not paying attention, you're not learning anything.
There you go. Time for a
curious
blessing
about
of our
theirs.
prayer request. If there's no other unity moments, reminder that our thoughts are prayers. So let's bless our thoughts too and keep them in the right direction. So the words are written on your order of service. Blessing of the prayer request.
God's all-encompassing love is doing its perfect work in and through us. Wholeness is established in every area of our lives, and so it is.
In every area of our lives. Do we have a volunteer to read the daily word? Cedric? Okay.
Divine love through me multiplies all that I give and receive. A classic unity hymn declares, love is something, if you give it always, you end up having more. While it is true that freely sharing my time, talent, and treasure attracts good into my life, I'm inspired to give for the sheer joy of giving. Recognizing my oneness with all people in God, I know every thought, word, and helping hand or financial gift I offer blesses me as much as it blesses the one who receives it. Because I know that both giving and receiving are essential to the flow of abundance, I accept with gratitude and love the gifts and blessings that come to me through the loving generosity of others. I count each day as another opportunity for me to give in return. And from 1 Timothy, they are to do good, to be rich in good works, generous, and ready to share.
Thank you.
Time for prayer and meditation. For meditation, when I read that reading this morning from the Daily Word, I reminded of the lesson from the Course in Miracles. To have is to give, or to give is to have. Our divine nature is love and joy and happiness and kindness and peace. Any of those that we share with others just increases as we share it. So let's take a moment or two to look inside, find that divine nature of happiness, joy, peace, love, contentment, all those things that are of God, that are in our nature, so that we may express it and share it. And as we share it, we also have it. You ever see this child, newborn type of thing, just, it may be gas or it may be a smile, but the warmth that you feel when you see it, it's just, they're sharing their divine nature in that, and you just feel it, and, focus on that. That's within us too. We might have covered it with a lot of masks and what I like to call the fig leaf, which is our persona, but it's there. Let's recognize it and share it so that it multiplies. Because we all know that this present situation, political climate in the world that we live in is so divisive, that if we could bring just a little bit of connectedness and peace and part of that divine within us to somebody else and let it spread out, it could be a better world. And I believe it's time for special music.
So the song's called Magically Aligned. Okay. I'm up a creek, but I don't need
Good. That's a good song too.
Disconnected, ready to bear.
Where's it go from here?
Well, this is the quote from Marianne Williamson now.
Hmm,
Democratic president candidate, by the way.
yes.
Technical difficulties here.
Connected to MacBook Air.
Myself, I give myself permission. I give myself permission to be all I can be. I give myself permission to live passionate and free. I give myself permission to be all I can be. I give myself permission to live passionate and free. I give myself permission to be all I can be. I give myself permission to live passionate and free.
Our deepest fear is not that we are inadequate. Our deepest fear is that we are powerful beyond measure. It is our light, not our darkness, that most frightens us. We ask ourselves, who am I to be brilliant, gorgeous, talented, fabulous? Actually, who are you not to be? You are a child of God. Your playing small does not serve the world. There is nothing enlightened about shrinking so that other people won't feel insecure around you. We were born to make manifest the glory of God that is within us. It is not just in some of us, it is in everyone. And as we let our own light shine, we unconsciously give other people permission to do the same. As we are liberated from our own fears, our presence automatically liberates others.
I give myself permission to live